Fossil fuel companies are some of the worst companies on the planet. They are actively destroying the planet and actively work to hamper progress, moving for a more sustainable and healthy future for our environment and people generally. One of those big players is ExxonMobil, which has a massive grasp on America specifically's fuel economy and has some more grasp around the world. They're a big company who has been working, it seems, behind the scenes to ensure that there is no active climate change movement, and they are working fastidiously to ensure that they remain that they remain able to ruin this country with more fossil fuel emissions. Thankfully, a climate change watchdog group was able to get in on one of the lobbyists talking about ExxonMobil and what they plan to do in the future and how they look to undermine Biden's climate change push right now by trying to target specific senators and undermine specific environmental pushes. Let's look at this leaked video by Channel 4.
The video connection is set up. It's time to go to work.
Hi, good to see you.
How are you?
Moments later, Mr. McCoy will become one of the first ever executives to claim that ExxonMobil has aggressively fought climate science using front organizations to maximize shareholder profit.
Did we aggressively fight against some of the science? Yes. Did we join some of these shadow groups to work against some of the early efforts? Yes, that's true. But there's nothing illegal about that. We were looking out for our investments. We were looking out for our shareholders.
In response, Exxon said, "We've supported climate science for decades," and accused Greenpeace of waging a multi-decade campaign against them and the industry. Keith McCoy thinks he's being headhunted for a new job. In fact, of course, he's being covertly filmed. So tonight, a man boasting at a job interview, or a never-seen-before look at how big oil tries to manipulate big power, or both? First, the targets. Congressmen are fish. Exxon is the fisherman.
When you have an opportunity to talk to a member of Congress, I liken it to fishing, right? You have bait, you throw that bait out. It's all these opportunities that you use, and to use the fishing analogy again, just to kind of reel them in, because they're a captive audience. They know they need you, and I need them.
Senators pressed to do Exxon's bidding behind closed doors.
You want to be able to go to the chief, and so the chief knows you, that you can go to the chief and say, look, we've got this issue. We need Congressman so-and-so to be able to introduce this bill. We need him to make a floor statement. We need him to send a letter. You name it. We've asked for everything.
So who are the fish?
I'm Joe Manchin. I approve this act because
The biggest catch, according to Mr. Coy, it's the conservative Democrat Senator Joe Manchin, who famously shot President Obama's cap-and-trade climate bill.
And I'll take dead aim at the cap-and-trade bill.
Joe Manchin, I talk to his office every week. He is the kingmaker, and he's not shy about sort of staking his claim early and completely changing the debate.
Legal declarations show that Senator Manchin has received tens of thousands of dollars from ExxonMobil and its trade associations. Keith McCoy names 10 other senators as crucial to ExxonMobil. Senators Mark Kelly, Chris Coons, Shelley Moore Capito, Kirsten Sinema, John Tester, Maggie Hassan, John Barrasso, Steve Daines, John Cornyn, and Marco Rubio. All bar Kelly and Hassan have taken money from Exxon totaling $117,000.
And there they say it plainly. Isn't that amazing? Before we'd have to assume, and we have to look at this and that. Now it's so great that they're so honest. They're able to say things up front. I love it. All right. And just so you know, a lot of those people that he talked about, people like Chris Coons, Kristen Sinema, John Tester, those guys are not Republicans, those are Democrats. And if you remember those names, because those are the names that come up, because those guys are usually the ones in greatest opposition, in greatest opposition to climate change bills, to infrastructure bills, to bills that usually help a lot of people. These are the most conservative Democrats that fall to the easiest push by people like ExxonMobil looking to make this country worse. Listen, this is what we're up against, okay? This is them. At least they say it plainly for us, so they don't mince any words. Did we fight against the science? Yes. So ExxonMobil has been out there in front of and behind a lot of the pushes that are things like anti-science, that go anti-climate change science, to make sure that they can, like he said, do what ExxonMobil does. ExxonMobil isn't like evil. They're not being controlled by any like evil overlords or anything. They're like Satan himself is not pulling the levers and flipping the switches at ExxonMobil, legally. Literally, maybe theoretically, but they're not evil. They do what they do. They have investors to take care of. They have investments to take care of. The only thing is that their job is to destroy the planet. They're doing it. I mean, nothing, like you said, nothing is illegal. What they're doing probably should be illegal, but it isn't for now. And they're using as many senators as possible, being in direct contact with them, messaging them every single week to ensure that they stay on the payroll, that they get money to ensure that any climate change bills don't go forward. Oh yeah, and they also just, even though that in particular wasn't illegal, I wouldn't doubt that they engage in some illegal actions as well. I wouldn't doubt it. But yeah, they can't help themselves over bragging about how well they have a lot of politicians, that how well they've got their business on lock, because they do. They have their business on lock. They're doing very well at making sure that they stop a lot of climate change initiatives. And it's awful that they're like waging a war on saving the planet, but that's what they do. That's why we don't like corporations. That's why we don't like this this capitalist framework, because it allows things like that to keep taking place as they destroy the country, as they destroy the planet. They have the defense that everything's just legal and they're just working within the system. I was expecting millions. Is that all it takes to sell out the environment? The thing is, lots of these people, they don't really care about the environment like necessarily. Lots of them are kind of old. By the time like if we get to the worst effects of climate change, they'll all be dead, so they can live good lives until then. So they'll all be dead, so they don't care about that necessarily. Lots of people aren't thinking forward, and lots of people care more about winning their election again, more than any policy that they necessarily pass. Their election, like winning election period, is the most important thing to them. So whatever can get them there and keep them in office is what they care about more than passing any like legislation or risking their own seat to advance like a better path, even though your constituents may not necessarily like agree wholeheartedly with it. Like doing what's right is on the back burner to making sure that you win your seat again, right? So no, they don't need it. They don't need millions. Lots of them don't need millions. Lots of them are in just seats where a couple $100,000 you throw at them is enough to like swing an election. And without it, they do even poorly. And they do poorly. They may not win their election. So on that note, yeah, that is all it takes to sell out the environment, is a couple $1,000s sometimes. So sometimes in a lot of really small races, a couple hundred, like a high $900, a couple donations of like $900 by some companies can swing that election. Just maybe that's like an extra person. Maybe that's just like a spokesperson that you can pay. Maybe that's a single other door knocker that you can get. Like it doesn't take much to swing elections a lot of the time. So with that being said, you're able to get small amounts of money, and that small amount of money can go a very long way for these companies. And a lot of work that they do when it comes to manufacturing consent, being so big and powerful already, they're able to get on like airwaves, they're able to talk about this, that, and the third, able to boost up the company, and able to hide their tracks when a lot of this comes up. And a lot of the things go quiet until you're able to coax out the truth out of them, like this guy, like Greenpeace was able to do with them. They talked about having a decades-long war. Absolutely, you should be having a decades-long war on a lot of these corporations. Do you see the shit that they're doing? They deserve to have a decades-long war enacted against them. Figuratively, not literally, figuratively. a war enacted against them. And the thing is, like, a lot of people talk about how this is why we don't need any lobbying. Wrong. Lobbying is great. Greenpeace does lobbying. Sunrise Movement does lobbying. Lots of other great organizations around the country do lobbying. Lobbying, there's nothing wrong with just lobbying, period. You want to be able to lobby. Like, you push politicians by lobbying. Like, you want to be able to put pressure on politicians. That's what lobbying is. You don't want to end lobbying. We want to end corporate lobbying. Like, these corporations being able to work in their own interest, not only having like the monetary ability to advocate for their own interest that many like private citizens don't have. The person that is the corporation are able to advocate for their own interests with that money that they have, that also can buy political power. But having direct access to political power, with being so powerful, being able to have direct access to those corporations. I mean, that guy was on the phone with Joe Manchin and his office weekly. How likely do you think it is that someone like me am able to talk directly to Joe Manchin on a weekly basis? Let's be honest with ourselves. Probably zero. All right. And lots of other like really important people don't either. At some points in time, it feels like not even like Chuck Schumer has direct access to Joe Manchin on a weekly basis, and ExxonMobil absolutely does. So taking all of this into account, we want to make sure that we stop that sort of lobbying, because this is what they're doing, making sure that they hamstring, stop, and lie and put out misinformation about the climate change, the science behind it, and bills working through Congress to address climate change, because that all works against their interests, their bottom line, their investors, their stocks. And I mean, stocks are very important. Not as important as the actual planet. That's just like me personally. That's how I feel about it.
Tonight, more major revelations. First, America's biggest oil company secretly uses what are known as forever chemicals. They're used by industry in everything from non-stick pans through waterproof clothing to cosmetics, even though safer alternatives now exist. Per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, linked by independent research to cancer, hormone disruption, weakened immunity, and they're called forever chemicals because they stay in the environment forever.
We manufacture PFAS, the chemical. We use it in our firefighting equipment.
A dramatic disclosure that the company uses forever chemicals, so toxic they've become the stuff of Hollywood.
How many did you lose?
190.
190 cows.
You tell me nothing's wrong here.
The film Dark Waters, the true story of a town contaminated by these forever chemicals. But forget Hollywood. Just this week, the US president addressed the scourge of forever chemical pollution across America.
We're also going to surge federal resources to help address the forever chemicals, not just here, but all across America.
You know, there's no cleaning it up. So, I mean,
So this is Keith McCoy, a senior ExxonMobil lobbyist on Capitol Hill, being covertly recorded by Greenpeace UK, who suddenly realized he's just made a dramatic claim.
Do people know that Exxon makes that chemical at all? No one knows.
Nope.
So
Nobody.
Yesterday, ExxonMobil flatly denied actually making forever chemicals.
So this guy, insider here at ExxonMobil, is like, yeah, we make the forever chemicals. Hey, they go into the environment, they kill people. What you gonna do about it? We got investors to. Hey, listen, we got investors to feed, okay? Like a stockholder daddy's little girl needs a new pair of shoes. What can I say? Maybe that's the life of a couple people with cancer. Who cares? I get a new yacht. And I love my new yacht. I need my new yacht. And they came out, obviously, as they said, denying it flatly that they make any of these PFAS chemicals, or any of these like forever chemicals, that they switched out of it. Lots of companies still make these chemicals, and lots of these companies still put them into the environment. So the idea that ExxonMobil just doesn't at all, I think is a tenuous claim after this guy who candidly comes out and says absolutely this happened. Now, this guy probably doesn't know literally everything that goes on in ExxonMobil, and maybe some things he said may not be in the most amount, may not be like the most truthful. So just take you should take it with a grain of salt, but you should also understand that if this guy is talking just so candidly and he does not believe he's being recorded and he thinks he's going to a new job, I think he can be like, yeah, I can flex some inside knowledge and be like, yeah, this is what we do, this, that, and the third, and we haven't told the public that we do it, but it goes into the environment. They don't have to know that they do it. They can find it out when they find out that they have freaking stage 4 leukemia or something. All right, that's when they can figure out that we put chemicals into the environment, turning the freaking cows dead. Not even gay, they're just dead. They're just all just fucking dead. So this is where this comes out. People like Ro Khanna have come out against this, thankfully, who have made statements about it, that we need to make sure that we stop climate disinformation. Like, one of the most dangerous things about all of this is just disinformation. How so many conservatives like don't even believe climate change like even exists, or if it does, like Daddy Elon Musk is gonna fly us to Mars by the time it like anything happens. Like, they unironically watched the movie like WALL-E and thought that was a great existence for humanity. They thought that was going to be great. Like, conservatives, it's hard for them to pick up and understand some parts of like these conservatives, it's hard for them to pick up and understand some parts of media sometimes. But at this point, it's starting to get a little ridiculous, if you ask me. That wasn't supposed to be the good part of the movie. All right, I must tell you, we don't want to be that, but maybe I don't know, they just think that it's going to be okay. If we keep going down that path, it will absolutely not be okay. All right, and that's why you need to do more work. You work out in your local work your local elections. Make sure that you vote in your house races. All right, every 2 years vote in those house races. Do some on the ground work, okay? Because more people that we have, like Nina Turner, like Ro Khanna, like Bernie Sanders, like Ed Markey in office, the less power that people like Joe Manchin and other people who are bought and paid for by big oil have to stymie our chances at ensuring a better future for all of us.